Can we all just stop and talk about the Dyatlov Pass incident real quick? Because I think science may have solved what happened and we need to talk about it. The Dyatlov Pass incident occurred almost 65 years ago to the day on February 2nd, 1959, when 9 Soviet hikers died in the Ural Mountains. When days went by with no word from the hikers, an official search party ensued on February 20th. 5 days later, on February 25th, the students find the group's ski tracks and then shortly afterwards find the infamous tent on a lonely mountain now referred to as Height 1079, which the indigenous has always called Dead Mountain. By the time they dug the tent out, they realized that the tent was intentionally slashed to pieces. Yet all items inside the tent were left in perfect order. That was probably the first eerie observation. All equipment like skis, ski boots, clothing were neatly piled on the side of the tent entrance. Food was still laid out as if the group was about to sit down to eat, along with the rest of the group's clothes, cameras, and journals, which they had brought along to document the trek. 100 feet downwind of the tent were distinct footprints of 8 or 9 people. And these footprints were walking, not running, toward the tree line. And you may have noticed I said footprints, not boot prints. And that's because some of these footprints were only wearing socks. Some were just straight up barefoot. Then the next morning, the searchers found the first round of bodies. Georgy and Yuri Doroshenko were lying under a cedar tree at the edge of the forest, lying dead next to the remnants of a fire, wearing only their underwear. While the search party continued to look for the other 5 hikers, 4 that were found were sent off to be autopsied, and that's when some really strange things were found. Georgy had blackened fingers and 3rd-degree burns on his shin and foot, while Yuri had a chunk of flesh inside of his mouth that he had bitten off from his right hand. All 4 bodies were bruised and scratched up all over. That's when the key discovery was made that the slashes on the tent were made from the inside. Something caused these 9 hikers to cut their way through this tent and flee into the night. So who or what made them do this? 2 studies, one in 2019 and 2021, published data that is probably the closest we'll ever get to finding out exactly what happened the night of February 2nd, 1959. The Dyatlov 9 reached Dead Mountain at around 5 p.m. and then immediately get to work cutting deeply into the slope to make their camp. But what the group likely didn't realize is they had cut into a wind slab, which is an accumulation of hard snow compacted by the wind, which makes it much heavier than regular snow. And by removing this big chunk of slope, there was now no support for the snow slab above, causing it to break off later in the night. This wind slab likely weighed 1,000 pounds or more when it fell on the tent, and probably caused some of those catastrophic injuries to the group members right then and there, while simultaneously pinning the tent down. This prevented the group from being able to grab their boots or clothing and forcing them to cut their way out of the tent to escape. After this, the group likely fled together towards the tree line, hence why we see all 9 footprints heading towards the forest. And given the various states of undress when the group fled the tent, some most certainly died of hypothermia sooner than others. The burned skin on Georgy and Yuri Doroshenko came from desperately trying to stay warm by the fire, and it's very likely that at this point the group decides to split up. So Dyatlov, Zina, and Slobodin likely attempted to go back to the tent to grab clothes and supplies, while the others stayed to build a snow den so they couldn't stay in their tent overnight anymore. Dyatlov, Zina, and Slobodin, as we know, don't make it to the tent. They die on the way from the brutal conditions. Back in the forest, the other 4 unfortunately don't realize that the snow tunnel they were digging was on top of a stream that wasn't frozen. So the snow collapsed from the digging, causing the 4 to fall into the rocky stream and be buried under 15 feet of snow. The mutilation to the faces was most likely a combo of decomposition and scavenging by animals. And that's that. Follow for more spooky science series all October long, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel because we are dropping a Halloween episode at the end of this month.